Welcome to the Blender Goon. In this video, we are going to make our first game asset and get it into Second Life so you guys get some instant gratification on your very first model. So to get started, you will see these three objects in your scene if you haven't deleted them already. And it'll be a cube and a point light and a camera. You can see these over here. And to get rid of them, we can box select just like we can in on the desktop and everything. And once you box select them, the first hotkey is X, and you can just go ahead and delete those. X is the hotkey for delete. To add a cube into the scene, because we will need one, um, you can go up to add and go to mesh and insert a cube, or you can use the hotkey, which is Shift A, and then go to mesh and cube. When the cube comes in, or anything else, anytime you do anything, you'll get a last operation panel here that you can open up, and you can change the size of it, the location of it, the rotation of it. So keep in mind you can do all that. Delete this and make a new one. Just okay. And we can shrink this because we don't need it that big. So we have our cube, and we need to be able to maneuver around the scene with ease. That way we can get different angles of things. So middle mouse will pan around your object. Shift middle mouse will allow you to move your object around a little bit. And I use period on the number pad a lot. And period on the number pad actually zooms to your wrong button there. Actually zooms to your object. 1, 3, and 9 on your number pad will access this gizmo up here. So 1 will be y-axis, and 3 will be x-axis, and 9 will be the top axis. So just to get a good handle on those. You can also use these here to zoom in and out. Zoom in and out is scroll your mouse wheel in and out. You can also hold control and hold middle mouse and move in and out. And that's what this does. So if you mouse over this and left click and hold down, you can zoom in and out. This one is our shift middle mouse, which pans around. And then this button down here is your perspective, orthographic and perspective. And then the camera button won't do anything because we don't have a camera. So the axes I'm talking about, the X and Y and Z, are these red lines, yellow, green lines, and the blue one's not there. We also have rotate, which is R. And if you hit R one time, it just rotates from your view. If you add an axis to it by hitting X after you hit R, it will stay on the x-axis, or you can hit Y and it'll stay on the y-axis, or you can hit Z and it'll stay on the z-axis. You can also hit R twice, and it will rotate like a trackball, so you can just rotate however you want. We also have G. G does the same thing. It's free move when you hit G by itself. If you hit X, it snaps and sticks to it. Y snaps and sticks that way, and Z snaps and sticks that way. And our scale works the same way, so we can scale the whole thing. We can hit X and scale on the X, or then we can hit Y and scale on the Y, or Z and scale on the Z. So the next thing I want to point out is how to save. So we have our file started here. It's not much anything, but if you go to File, Save As, you can save somewhere. So I would suggest making a new folder on the desktop just by clicking your little create new directory up here and name in that directory Blender. And once you have it, open it up and make sure you name your model and just save it. I also want to point out a couple other things. So if you go to Edit Preferences and File Paths, we can add a button here. So under Asset Libraries, click Add, and find your Blender file that we just made. Add your Blender file as an asset library, and now you have it as an asset library. If we right click on our cube and mark as asset, we can go to the asset browser and actually pull that out of the library. And I'll go through this later, and I have a video on it in my YouTube channel um, under my first Blender for Second Life playlist. But if we go to Blender, that cube's there, and then we can take that cube and we can drag it out and drop it in the scene, and you'll have it there. So we can go ahead and delete that. That's just a quick overview of the asset folder and how to save your files and mark assets. And it's a big deal later on. And if you keep everything organized from the get-go, you'll have a much better life doing this Blender stuff. I also want to show if you go to File, External Data, and automatically pack resources, this will be a big deal for you later. It'll make your save files a little bigger, but whenever you move files around, it won't break anything. So let's say I'm working on something and I make a bunch of textures in the file and I save it on my desktop. Well, I don't want it on my desktop, so I move it to my my Blender folder. As soon as you move it, Blender follows file paths. So all your textures will break. They'll be pink because the file path for the texture doesn't match up with where the file's at. So if you automatically pack resources, you can move that stuff around and it won't ever break your textures and things. So I made that folder. Let me go to that folder. I want to. I've got my first model in here in the Blender folder, but I need another folder for that. So we're going to make a new folder, and we're going to call it first model. And we're going to put that first model in that folder. That way, everything's organized. So anytime we save anything for the first model, it'll be in that folder. So we have most of the basics out of the way for how to navigate 3D space and how to rotate, scale, and grab. We're going to go ahead and start modeling this. We're going to make us a little wagon, and we're going to put it in Second Life. So to start off, I'm going to scale it on Z to bring it down, and then move around a little bit. Sorry. We're going to scale on the Y a little bit. My screencast doesn't tell you the second thing I hit, but it's I hit Y. I'm going to scale it a little bit more on the Z. And we have our basic wagon shape here. I want my wagon to have a handle, so I'm going to hit Shift D to make that, and I'm going to hit X to constrain it on the X-axis, and I'm just going to move it over here, and we're going to scale that down. Maybe scale it on the X, and maybe scale it on the Y a little bit more, just to make a basic handle. And then I'm going to hit 1 on the number pad to go into exact side view. That way I could just hit R and not constrain it. So it will rotate from the view. So if I'm looking at it like this and I hit R, it'll rotate weird. But we don't want to do that. New hotkey, Control Z, just like in Windows, Control Z undoes, and Control Shift Z will go the other way. So you can undo things. So back in the front view by hitting 1 on the number pad. And I'm going to hit G and just place this where I think it needs to go, probably about there. And that looks okay. I want to make some wheels. And if I go in the front view and I hold Shift and right click, I can move my 3D cursor. Wherever the 3D cursor is where objects come into the scene at. So now if I hit Shift A, mesh cylinder, I can put a cylinder there, and our operator panel is over here. If it's not open, you can open it. 32 vertices is how many vertices are around the top of it, so we want to reduce those. So if I hit Shift and drag with left click my mouse over, I can change how many it is. You can also type it in manually. You can hit the little buttons here, but Shift gives you control of how fast it's going. It slows things down when you're moving things. If I don't have that, it goes pretty fast. But 12 is probably good. So do that, and then we will rotate it on the X. So RX 90 degrees. So just type in 90. and it'll do that. And left click to confirm it. And then we can scale it down, scale it on the Y, move it on the Y, go into side view, maybe move it down to here, maybe scale it down a little bit more, and just put it where you think it needs to go. And if there's too much of a gap, you can move it on the Y again, and that's probably fine. We also have right click to bring up context menu, and there's a shade smooth, so we can shade it smooth, make it kind of a little more round. And we need 4 more of these. And I want to show Shift D and Alt D. I already showed Shift D with this. If you use an Alt D, it does a little something different. I think I'll save that for another video though, because you have to go into edit mode for that, and I don't want to get into that right now. We can show a modifier though, so modifiers work off of the point of origin, which is the little dot in the middle. And if I use a mirror modifier, it'll mirror off of that dot. So right now, if I'm using mirror modifier, it'll go right on top itself. So we need to put the point of origin back at the center. And I want to put the 3D cursor back at the center too. So to move the 3D cursor, it's Shift C, and that'll reset it. And then we can use our mirror modifier. So over here is a modifiers tab. It looks like a little wrench. And if we add modifier, we want a mirror. And that will mirror it right where it's at on the x-axis. So if we apply our transforms, which is object apply all transforms, we could also do location, but we'll do all transforms. That'll mirror it automatically on the x-axis. And then we can also hit Y, and it'll go on the Y. And the reason it went like that is because it moved the point of origin back to 0, which is the center of the scene. So now we have our wheels of our wagon. And I'm going to go into edit mode just to make this wagon a little more wagon-like. So if you select your cube with left click and hit tab, that will change you from object mode to edit mode. And you can also change it manually up here. And then 3 on the number pad or keyboard will choose this up here. So 3, and it chooses that, and we can select the top face. And we can use a function called inset, which is I. So if we hit I, we can inset and then move our mouse left a little bit. When you're moving your mouse and things, make sure that you are not right in the middle of the object. So move your mouse over to the right and do the inset. Before I do that though, most of these modifiers and everything work off of those transforms. So if your transforms are not applied, you can see that by going back to object mode, hitting in, and looking at your item. So the scale is not 1 all the way across. And if it's not 1, things work weird. Like our inset's not going to work weird. And I will show you what that does. So if I hit I and I move this, you see how these are bigger than the sides, and it's because of the way it's scaled. So if I undo that with Control Z, and I go back to object mode, and I apply my transforms with Control A, all transforms, that sets these to 0 to 1. Then if I inset this again by going in edit mode by hitting tab, hitting I, see how they're all even now? So that's an important thing. If things are not acting the way you think they should, you probably need to apply your transforms. It's almost every time. That's one of the biggest problem people have. So we insetted that a little bit. Now I'm going to hit E to extrude, so we can go up with it if we want, but we can also go down. So I'm going to go down and, probably about there. I don't want to go past our thing here. If you want, you can move this down. I went to object mode and selected this and moved it down. Now I'm going to select this again, hit tab, and then I can move that down with G so that I can have a little deeper wagon. And that's all we're going to do for the modeling of this wagon. Now we need to add some materials. And if you hit N, you can close that panel. Our materials live down here at the bottom under material properties. So if we select that, we have our wagon selected, we can hit new, and then we can change this to red. and nothing happened. And reason nothing happened is because we are in solid mode. Material preview is here, which will give us our colors. So we can click that. The hotkey for that is Z or Z. So if you hit Z, you can choose one. We was in solid mode. Now we're in material preview. The handle, I'm going to make the handle black. And I'm going to make these black. Since I have a black already, I'm just going to hit the drop down here and choose the black. So we've done a good bit here. We probably should save. So to save, you can hit Control S, and that'll save for you since you've already saved once. And we're not going to bake or anything this time. So we're just going to join this guy together. So box select it all. Shift select something to make it active. And then Control J will join everything together, and it broke. So since it broke, we need to back it up and select our wheels because that's what broke, and our modifiers are still here. So when we joined it together, it broke our modifiers. So we'll go ahead and apply those. You can hit this little drop down here and apply. And now we can select the rest of our objects. If you hold shift, you can select multiple things. So shift, select that, shift and select that, and then Control J, and that joins it all together. Now we need to check the size of it. So hit N, and down here we got a 3.26 meter on the x-axis long wagon. That's pretty big. So we'll just scale the whole thing down. We'll take it down to 1 meter. And left click to confirm it. And now our scales broke again. So Control A, all transforms. And that sets our scale back right. So we're ready to export this guy. So I know I went through a lot pretty quickly in this, but it's all just to get you basically moving stuff around, copying things, and just getting a basic understanding of how to build in a program. We have this guy all done up and ready to go, so we can export him. So File, Export, Collada, and we'll go to our first model folder. And over here on the operator presets, we're going to use SL OpenSim static, and all the rest of this stuff can stay the same, and we'll just export. And then we can jump into the Second Life grid and give it a try and see if it works. Okay, so we're in Second Life now. I'm on the test grid here. So up here we have a build button, and we can go to upload mesh model and find our first model DAE. And there's our wagon. Left click will spin it around like this. Control left click will spin it this way, and you can check it out. Some of the caveats to this: one, we need to rename it because it chooses what we started with, and I'll tell you how to fix that in another video. So we're just going to name it wagon. Our words over here are the load models of the object. So we can click medium, and this is what it will look like if you walk away from it when it breaks the first time. Second Life makes its own load models. This is not good. So we can actually take the medium and bring the number up until we like what it looks like. Since this is low poly, like extremely low poly, we can just do load from above. So it'll use the original model for the load model 2. Load model 3 looks like this. You can manually change it until it looks okay. This is what it looks like from a long, long distance away. It breaks the third time. It's so low poly that I can actually use load from above again. And the bottom one, we just changed to 0. Well, we'll need a physics model for our object, so we can choose just a cube for now. We'll get into physics models at a later date also, but there's our physics model. And we can go ahead and calculate the weights and fees. And it's half a land impact, so that'll be fine. and go ahead and upload. Now we can res out our wagon. And it comes in with all its colors and everything. And if you want it a little bigger, you can scale it up here. Just a little bit. And that is your first model in the Second Life. So that is it for this video. If you like it, go ahead and like and subscribe. I have a Discord server where I do live classes on Sunday. Come join us in Discord. And I also have a Patreon if you want to support your local Blender Goon. And I will see you guys in the next one.